been a long time. And by a long time, I mean about half a year to a year. I can't keep track of time anymore. Smells noodle. How are you doing?
It's doing good. How about you?
Good. This is the sixth episode, I believe, of the Salt and Vinegar podcast. It has been so long since we've done anything like this, and I figured I would rebrand and come back with a bit of an easier, more slick gimmick. We are going to have a series of mini-sodes, 15, 30 minutes, where we just shoot the breeze. You know, me and you and me. As you can see, you know, you're the controller on the right that is closer to the potato chips, and I'm the controller on the left that is by the Coke, and oh my god, yo, red pill, blue pill, yo, dude, propaganda in my Salt and Vinegar podcast graphic.
Well, and what'll be super cool is the longer episodes. We can call these mini episodes, like a limited series, but these are going to be our regular episodes are going to be about 30 minutes. If they are longer, it's usually because we're just having fun, or because we will have special guests on.
Yeah, absolutely. So to start off, I figured today we could run through a few topics. The first thing that comes to mind is what you have playing over here on the tablet. You've got Futurama. Futurama is a show that came out like back in the 2000s when I was in elementary school, and probably before that.
Actually, hold on.
I think it probably came out in 1999, right?
Let me search.
It makes it as old as SpongeBob. That's weird.
1999.
Wow. That is so interesting. Okay, so 1999. And that puts it as old as being as old as Ed, Edd and Eddy. Wow. I remember watching Futurama a lot when I was in elementary school, and a little bit after, and then I think it's always like gotten like canceled and brought back and canceled and brought back, and I just these networks just don't want it, I guess. But it's such a good show that people like the audience wants it and so on.
Exactly.
I always loved the episodes that I watched. I thought you know like Fry and Leela were wholesome. There's this one episode forever ago of Leela and her parents, where you discover that I guess like her parents just wanted her to be more integrated into normal society or something like that, and they left her off on some like orphanage doorstep. Um, ugh, that episode. That episode was a tearjerker. Um, and Bender's like so fun. Bender is such the life of the party. But Zoidberg, he's a little sussy. Like he'll like say stuff that's kind of like under the table if you're not paying attention, and it's actually like super funny. So and then of course you have Amy, and then Kip and that captain guy who likes Leela. Um, and Amy and Kip are like a couple or something for a bit. Um, and that's like on the funnier side of things. Um, what's your take on the characters, the main cast?
I, and see, you haven't seen up until this new season, I think.
I know a new season's coming back. That's so exciting.
This season's coming out, so I'm excited. Um,
Yeah, coming out. Yeah.
sorry, I was just distracted by the music. But
No need.
very loud.
Oh, it's fine.
Shut up. But I don't know. I liked Futurama for a while, so I can't tell you like which episode or like my favorite. I think one of them, I guess, because we're on season 2 right now, is the Flights to Remember. I think that's a really kind of funny episode because it's basically Titanic but in space, and
Like
I think
the
it's really
plane, some sort of ship crashes or something.
yeah, like and then Bender's like love. She ends up being stuck into a black hole.
Good lord.
It's not good news bears for a lot of
That
people.
reminds me of that. Wasn't there a Futurama episode where like they all join up to like go on? Well, all right, that's our initial impression of Futurama. What's a favorite episode of yours, minus the Titanic and space one?
I also really like the one where Fry gets to tell his mom he's okay
Oh
in the
yeah, sounds like an
future,
emotional one. Yeah.
and yeah, it's very emotional, but it's it's because you have to think about it, right? Like your son goes freaking missing, like there's no trace of him, and you're left forever wondering what happened to him, and then he goes back and he's like, "Hey mom, I'm alright, like I'm okay," and you find out that his nephew is named after him because his name isn't Fry, his name is Philip. And you find out that his nephew became a really like important space astronaut. Like he was a really important like person who colonized Mars, quote unquote. Um, and
Yeah.
so you get to
Huh.
see like the brotherly bond and how everyone loved him, even his dad. And so it's a good episode. I also really like Layla's episode where you find out that she's not an alien, but
A mutant.
she's a mutant. That you were
Yeah.
talking about. But
Yeah, she's an X-Men. Yeah.
I also really liked the episode before that where she before they find out she's a mutant, she the whole gang goes. It's like a. It's funny because Futurama did VR before VR was like a thing, and it's like this VR headset game thing where you can go to online stores and you can play games, you can go to interactive like sex clubs, and it's really, and then there's this multiplayer VR thing where you're like your full person, and if you get killed, you know you get out of the game lobby or whatever, and in
Mm.
that game lobby she ends up finding someone who looks like her, and it becomes this whole thing where this guy actually is like a shapeshifter, and he's doing this to like 15 other women, and he's all marrying them at the same time so he can have 15 wives, and
Hmm.
his friends are all in on this, and he was like, "Do you know how much it took to rent a tux that doesn't rip when I change form?" And it ends up being like, oh wow, he's just catfishing her. But it was a really interesting episode because Fry stops being the comedic relief and starts actually being like, hey, Leela, something's off about this dude. Like, there's something wrong here. And she's like, no, no, he's one of me. Like, I finally found someone from my species. Why aren't you happy? And he's like, yeah, you can be happy. I want you to be happy, but like, there's something wrong here. And he's the only one who's calling it out until like stuff starts happening. So it's one
Hmm.
of the very few, I think, episodes where like you really see Fry's like caring for Leela, but you also see him very serious.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like he's the serious one, and Bender's the comic relief.
Well, Bender's basically like Rick Sanchez. Like he's got that sort of like, I'm a party goer. A little touch of nihilism. Apathy, but deep down, I'm, suffering. Sympathetic.
Well,
Um,
he's looting the entire episode. Like he's just taking everything. And I think it's interesting because usually Fry's the one who's like the bumbling kind of idiot, but in this
mhm.
one it's Bender. Bender's like the bumbling idiot, where he's like he loots so much that he has to put the loot in a bag because the door to his body doesn't open. And it's like, wow, you kind of essentially everyone has switched roles. Like Bender's the idiot, Leela's kind of Fry, and then Fry's Leela, and everyone kind of has like switched their things for that episode. Um, I also really liked the episode where Fry and Leela they get together and they're having this date, and because of the professor, it takes him like thousands of years to get back to Leela. And she thought that he had left her all this time, but he ends up like making it up to her. And it just there's several character ones like
and graceful about Futurama is that it's this commentary show with a lot of sympathetic characters. Obviously, you know, the main one being Fry, fish out of water, wasn't doing much good in his original life, then gets blasted to the future, and you know, seems to be able to make a lot more of a difference, which I think is sort of that positive twist on that phrase that's often attributed to sort of meaning something negative, which is the whole like I was born in the wrong generation, because it's like you probably are, but you wouldn't probably do good in the past. You know, you'd probably do good in the future. You know, because whenever someone says that, people are always like, "Oh, really? You'd really, you know, you'd really hack it out in the 1800s?" It's like, no, you know. But and yeah, my favorite episodes are often ones with a lot of Bender or Zoidberg because you know, the thing about the characters in Futurama, the main cast of like the Professor, Amy, Leela, Zoidberg, Bender, and Fry, is that they're all so different, and they juxtapose each other. Um, and the comedy comes from you know what's called I think the unlikely team, which is that trope of like you know all these different like heroes or people who like you wouldn't think work together well but do. Um, and I like the futuristic commentary. Like it's so weird because when I was a kid, and I think a lot of people might relate to this. When I was a kid, I used to watch like a lot of like adult cartoons and never really know what they were talking about, and I would just think that like you know I would only laugh at the most obvious like jokes. Like there's like a scene in Family Guy where like Lois is like, um, "Wow, I'm really mad at Peter. Oh well, I guess I'll just ignore it and let it sit and never address it." And then it like zooms in on her brain, and a tumor in the shape of Peter starts like starts like dancing and saying, "I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor." And you know, I always found that funny. But like, I would never laugh at like a lot of the more subtle jokes about like you know celebrities and governments and things like that. And now that I'm older, I do. You know, and so it's sort of like rediscovering. Um, it's kind of like you know, like a time capsule and rediscovering old things that you liked for one reason, and then you get older and you like them for a different reason. Um, and so there's this value of rewatchability and of rediscovery that I think makes shows like Futurama and Futurama itself novel. Um, you ever experienced that? You ever like watched something when you're younger and you didn't really get it, and then you get it older and you're like, oh shit.
I do that with all of my shows. That's why I know so much.
Yeah, you're a wise mage. You're a wise little sorceress.
Yeah. Um, no, but I
Oh
do
my!
that with like the drama. I do that with New Girl. I do that with like a whole bunch of different ones.
I
Um,
was pouring some seltzer into my cup, and then I like looked over, and I thought I saw water falling down the computer screen, and I'm like, no! And it turns out it's because the graphic is raining. It's raining in
yeah, it's
bubbles.
raining, obviously.
It's raining, man.
It's raining.
You gave me
Um,
olives. You gave me olives. This is disgusting.
well, I wanted you to throw it away.
Why? There's still olives in here.
Oh, is there still olives in there?
Holy crap! There's like a bunch of like tomatoes at the bottom too.
Oh, well
What
then
is even?
give it back. I thought there was more olives in there. I was gonna be thrown away.
There's like four. There's like four, six left olives. What are manzanillas? Oh my god. Ah, that's so disgusting! Look, oh, there's Zoidberg on the tablet right now
Oh
eating a
my
crab
god.
in the desert. In the desert. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in to the
Yeah.
first mini-sode of Salt and Vinegar Mini-Sode podcast. Minicast? I don't know. This brought to you by Manzanilla Olives.
Next time we'll talk about Sims. Talk about more games.
We're going to talk about The Sims.